Hi, Max Keiser. Welcome back to part 2 of the Keiser Report special, Global Insurrection Against Banker Occupation, show number 200 special. Double header with Stacy Herbert.
Yes, Max, I'm occupying Keiser Report for the second half.
Yeah, baby.
So I also did, invite comments and questions and images and artwork for this special Keiser Report, episode 200. And we have a statement on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Keiser Report, from John Michael Orr. He said, "The Keiser Report is the best show in any form of media, period. I hope you and Stacy can become the anti-Wall Street's John and Yoko."
We already are heading in that direction. There's a film we're making in Amsterdam, room 702 of the Amsterdam Hilton Hotel. We're going to have a bed in, where we're going to give financial peace a chance. Max and Stacy in bed, finally. And this will be the topic of a special Keiser Report coming up in the not-too-distant future.
Let's talk about Amsterdam a little bit more. There was Occupy Amsterdam, and I wanted to call your attention to this video that was sent in to us from Occupy Amsterdam. And you see there, notice that sign there in the background, Max. It says, "Crash JP Morgan, buy silver." That is, of course, something we launch here on the Keiser Report, the beginning of the global insurrection against banker occupation in the West.
That's right. We've launched the Crash JP Morgan Buy Silver campaign. The price of silver doubled. Now it's up about 50% from where we launched that campaign. We talked about another very important campaign, how to leverage the global insurrection against banker occupation without actually spending any money at all, but by focusing very specifically on a global boycott that would decapitalize one of the biggest companies in the world, Coca-Cola, and then inviting hedge funds to simultaneously sell short that stock to create a pincer movement to obliterate that company. That's another action the Occupy movement could take without spending any money.
But going back to the Crash JP Morgan buy silver, JP Morgan is the Federal Reserve. JP Morgan is involved in manipulation. This is the heart of the global financial crisis. This is the banner under which they all fly, the TINA. There is no alternative but our fraud. So this is why buying silver, we remove a weapon in the arsenal of the global banking fraudsters, which is the US dollar and the derivatives and the amount of unlimited shorts they can place on silver.
Well, let me just follow up on that, because there is a movement, there is an idea circulating amongst all the various global Occupy chapters to pull money out of the bank and put it into maybe a credit union or a bank that's not part of the too big to fail banks.
That's November 5th. They're doing the pull your money out of the banks.
Now, we've already seen people try this a couple of times, and it doesn't really work so well, because you're just shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, aren't you? It would only make sense if you pulled out that cash and bought silver or gold. Then you've actually done something that threatens the system.
But you also remove yourself from a fraudulent system. So, for example, Occupy Wall Street has raised donations of $300,000. Now, Terry Boole, who we've had on the show often, she's, in her investigations, learned that Amalgamated Bank, the community bank in which Occupy Wall Street has placed their money, is now under FDIC investigation for creative accounting.
Right, this is the problem. Like I said, deck chairs rearranged on the Titanic.
Okay, so here's another image sent in from John Krause in Florida, and it combines these two things, the Silver Liberation Army and GIABO, the global insurrection against banker occupation. History made fresh daily. Rise up, maxkeiser.com and RT.
Excellent artwork. Keep it coming.
Yes, send more. So I want to turn to, we were talking about fraud, and I want to turn to this little clip with William K. Black, who we've had on this show. He's the former banking regulator who saw 1,500 plus bankers sent away to prison for fraud in the 1980s, in the beginning of TINA on the scene. And let's turn to this clip here on the Dylan Ratigan Show.
Only about a month ago, the Federal Housing Finance Administration filed fraud complaints, civil ones, against 17 of the largest banks in the world, in which it said there is a paper trail that demonstrates the fraudulent intent of these banks. Well, where is the Justice Department? And for that matter, where's Paul Krugman, who can't be bothered to use the F word?
Yeah, well, Bill Black, our buddy Bill Black, good point. New York Times, Paul Krugman, how come they're siding with the terrorists? Also, it puts into context the recent comments by Barack Obama that the banks committed a moral transgression but did not break the law. Here's the top government regulator, Bill Black, from the 1980s saying it's definitely fraud. They definitely broke the letter of the law. And Obama, if you are down with someone breaking the law, that's an impeachable offense. Why is he still in office?
Yeah, but Max, this guy, Bill Black, is saying that it is the economists like Paul Krugman who provide the systemic propaganda for the population. He's the one who refuses to use the F word. If you're not going to use the 5-letter F word, Paul Krugman, you might as well use the 4-letter one.
Woo, doggy.
Okay, well, let's move on to the fraud that dares not speak its name. QE pushes families into debt, warns Bank of England Governor Sir Mervyn King. So Max Keiser, what do you think about this? This issue, savers versus speculators. And here is Mervyn King saying that, in fact, quantitative easing, which is meant to cover the fraud of the banksters, in fact, will make the situation worse for the average population because it encourages them not to save and, in fact, to spend more.
Financial oppression. That's what it's called. The Bank of England has adopted a policy that is purposefully oppressive.
Yes.
That's not in keeping with what you'd expect in a representational democracy. You don't vote for dictators whose purpose is to oppress and repress you to benefit their kleptocratic brothers and sisters, Mervyn King, kleptocrat in chief.
And what do the likes of Mervyn King and the top 1% that he represents, what do they keep saying about those 99% that are now complaining? They said, you're the one that took on this debt. You're the one, therefore, who should be responsible for it. Well, here is Mervyn King, who is telling you, I am forcing you to either take more debt or die.
Yes, this is a classic case of scapegoating. And we've seen this before during repressive, oppressive regimes. They steal the money from one group, then they say, oh, those groups are rats. Those groups deserve to be in a concentration camp after we stole all their money. Now Mervyn King is saying, okay, we've stolen all your money. Now we're going to call you rats, and we're going to put you in concentration camps. And then when you rise up, like in London, when the looters, quote unquote, suddenly sprung out of the woodwork, we'll just hire more cops. Never mind the fact that the entire economy is based on looting. And if you really wanted to grow the economy, Mervyn King, you would have given each one of those looters a banking license and a job at Goldman Sachs and tell them, get on the phone and start making us money.
Not only did we have a new round of £75 billion in quantitative easing, but shock jump in inflation in the UK to 5.2%. Well, here's a tweet. UK inflation should fall back sharply early next year, Bank of England Governor Sir Mervyn King says. So this is a constant extend and pretend monetary policy, because I'm going to show you a headline from January of 2010, nearly 2 years ago, when inflation first jumped to 2.9% in the UK. Shock jump in inflation is a real poser for Mervyn King. In the article, it says, the bank reckons the current spike in inflation will be short-lived and will fall back below target of 2% later this year, suggesting it is in no rush to put the brakes on just yet.
He's lying because his actions are guaranteeing more inflation. So it's like saying he just punched people in the face and saying that it didn't hurt and that you shouldn't be bothered when I punch you in the face again. Look, I was on BBC 5 Live, I think 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I told the presenter point blank that the policies in the UK are going to cause this spike in inflation. And the way that the end of the interview was, well, thank you for that gloomy assessment. So in the UK, of course, if you speak the truth, it's characterized by the BBC as gloomy, as a downer. Meanwhile, the people are being absolutely zhuanged up the schwing by Mervyn King and his policies of death. What about just saying the truth, BBC? Oh, that's right.
Mervyn King here is saying just another quarter, I promise, is all going to get better. And it doesn't. It doesn't get better because there is no alternative but financial terrorism. And what is the same thing that you see in the political system? People seek a political solution to this banking terrorism. And they keep on saying, oh, just 4 more years of George Bush, and then we'll get a Democrat in there. Oh, now it's just 4 more years of Barack Obama, and it'll all get better, but it never does. And you could see this in the final headlines here, Max. Romney, top 10 campaign contributors. Who's number 1? Goldman Sachs. Number 2, Credit Suisse, then Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and then rounding up the top 10 is JP Morgan.
Right, more of the same. And they use every crisis to rewrite the laws to make it easier to commit more financial fraud.
Yes, but what I'm saying here by showing this is that Barack Obama is the front runner for the Democrats. His number 1 contributor, Goldman Sachs. Mitt Romney, is the number 1 for the Republicans. Who's his number 1 contributor? Goldman Sachs. So choose either one of them. You're going to get the same, there is no alternative. Tina is the rule of law.
Or how about this Herman Cain character? His past includes a job actually at the Kansas City Fed.
And this final headline here, Max, the only hope on the horizon report. Obama podium teleprompter stolen. So a truck carrying President Barack Obama's podium teleprompter and audio equipment was stolen in Richmond, Virginia. Sources say that about $200,000 of presidential equipment was stolen from Richmond Marriott Hotel.
Yeah.
So Max, this is just perfect karmic justice that the spokesman for the banking industry, the one that just mouths whatever the bankers say, the podium and the teleprompter are stolen. So if we can find a way to prevent any of our political candidates in America or the UK or wherever from actually talking, from actually speaking the words that bankers give them to tell us, the lies that they give them to tell us.
This is why I'm very hopeful about what's happening in Greece. They have it within their ability right now, today, to collapse the European banking system and thus the global banking system. So let's give us their support. All the Occupy movements around the world focus on Greece, what's happening in Athens, and hopefully they can engender a domino effect to collapse the banksters.
All we are saying is let the banks fail.
Well, thank you, Stacy Herbert, for being on every single one of the 200 Keiser reports so far, and I hope we do another 200 or 2,000.
Yeah.
If you want to send me an email, please do so at keiserreport@rttv.ru. Until next time, this is Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.